Winter is coming. Throw another body on the fire. The Queen's Justice, Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 3. Yes, I know I'm a little late getting this out. I had a really busy weekend, guys, and there's only so much I can do at once. So I'm looking to get back on track, but first, there's a little bit of catch up. This is the first thing. This was really good. In my personal opinion, best episode of the season so far, which actually means, going back to the first episode, which I was a little iffy on, every single episode has gotten better. That's a nice trajectory. As always, keep in mind, this is not spoiler free. I'm gonna be talking about what goes on pretty explicitly. I'm also gonna jump around as stuff occurs to me. So let's start with Jon Snow meeting Daenerys. I didn't like how that started. I was really iffy on that. But as it went on and progressed, and the way that they kind of came to terms to each other by the end of the episode, I was good with it. Basically, I was really annoyed with Daenerys early on. Because first of all, there's sort of the meta knowledge that I know Jon is right. And I want to like Daenerys, so for her to be an obstacle to the guy I know is right makes me immediately frustrated with her. And there was also the fact that just her approach, and I realized as the episode was going on, oh, I get why she's like this. Up to this point, she hasn't ever had to negotiate. She's just delivered ultimatums. She hasn't really been a leader. So, I mean, she's led her people follow her, but she's been a conqueror. She comes in and just steamrolls whoever's there. She's not used to the minutia of having to negotiate. So thank goodness Tyrion was there to, I'm not going to say rein her in. He doesn't have that degree of influence over her, but to be a mitigating voice and get everybody on the same page. Davos was also really good for that. He was great too. And so even though she frustrated me pretty much from the word go as soon as she started talking with Jon, by the end I liked that that was the starting place, because it gave basically their relationship and coming to grips with each other became a little mini arc within the episode. If they had dragged that out, if she was going to be an obstacle to Jon for more than one episode, would have infuriated me. They didn't do that. They kept it to one episode. That works. Ser Jorah's cured. I'm not going to say it's a sticking point in this episode. This is a potential sticking point for me later. They better think of something really good to do with him. And the reason I say that is because I thought his exit was beautiful and perfect, and I remember thinking at the time, I kind of hope he doesn't come back, because there was something beautifully, poetically tragic about that being the end. Because in my mind, the way it worked was he had this infection that has no cure. He's going off basically to die. She tells him, I order you to go and find a cure. In my mind, that never meant, oh, now he'll go find a cure. That meant that what she gave to him was purpose. Instead of just going out to die, he goes out with a quest. He will not complete that quest. He will still die, but he will die with purpose, and purpose that she gave him. I found real, wonderful, melancholy, tragic beauty in that. That now is no longer the case because he's alive. Now, I'm not going to say this is a bad development, because it's going to depend on how they pay it off and what they do with him now. So we'll see. I hope they don't botch it, because like I said, right now, his exit was one of my favorite things when it happened. So don't ruin this for me, guys. I'm crossing my fingers on that. I really like the dynamic between Jim Broadbent and Sam, and that Jim Broadbent is giving him his dues. He's giving him the proper recognition for what he accomplished, but at the same time, it's like, you're still at the bottom of the rung, dude. You got to work your way up. I don't know what else there is for Sam to do at this point. Yeah, he's now served two plot functions. He got the information to Jon. He's now saved Jorah. They better find something else for him to do, otherwise the story doesn't need him anymore, which makes him very expendable. Bran was a little weird this episode. Not bad, but he's sort of jumped into this odd detached thing since he's taken over being the three-eyed raven. And it seems like a little much. I mean, I guess if I'm being fair, at the same time, it wasn't totally clear how close he was to Sansa in the first place, and obviously they've both been through a lot. But he was just oddly cold, and again, I'll be interested to see if that's going somewhere or if it was just an odd character choice. Sansa taking control in Winterfell, I'm liking. She's smart, she's paying attention, she's getting in there and saying, I see that this is wrong, fix it. I like all of that. And Littlefinger, I'm frustrated and irritated that he's around in the best possible way, because I enjoy hating him. So when I'm watching him give her what is legitimately helpful, useful advice, knowing that he's ingratiating himself to get in better, to be able to get what he wants out of her, infuriates me, but in a very, in a way that I don't dislike. In a way that's like, oh, Littlefinger. So yeah, he's maddening, but in a way that I don't want him to go away, not yet. That said, I'm really hope Sansa is able to, if not completely resist, at least not just fall under his sway and ultimately end up doing whatever he wants her to do. That I would like to think she's got more internal strength at this point, and she's showing enough strength as a leader that I think he's going to be a problem, but I don't think he's just going to turn her into a puppet, because that would tick me off, and I don't think it's going to happen. We had the bit with Cersei and Ellaria, and that was fine. I knew she was going to take revenge in that scene, and I got real nervous as to how she was going to do it, especially like knowing that they'd established that Ellaria saw the mountain. I got really afraid of how brutal this was potentially going to get, and the show didn't go there, and I'm glad. And Cersei went for the more poetic poison lips. I do find it interesting that they didn't show the actual death of the sand snake that was left. I don't know if they're just going to string that along, or if that is going to end up ultimately meaning something. But yeah, that was harsh. It was a surprising kind of roller coaster watching the taking of Casterly Rock, watching the Unsullied show up and like, oh, they can't get through that. And then Tyrion revealing, you know, I know this, I know the way in. It's like, oh, they will win. And then them realizing there should be more troops here, pulling back, and there's Euron's fleet, realizing what the bulk of their army is actually doing. It's just, you're like, oh no, oh yeah, oh no, and that's a fun emotional roller coaster to be taken on, just the highs and lows as you realize how things are going down, which then brings us to Highgarden and Olenna Tyrell going out like a boss. I've loved this character from the instant she showed up. Diana Rigg has owned it in this part so well, and I just love that she knows there's nothing she can do about it, but she takes the poison. She's just gonna twist the knife onto Jaime and just give him this little you could have had your revenge on the person who was responsible for Joffrey's death, but it's too late, because I'm going to have a nice, pleasant death. Nothing you can do about it. So there. That's a Westeros mic drop if there ever was one. I think that's pretty much it. The other thing I want to touch on, and I think I've said this before, I'm surprised how much I like Euron Greyjoy, because I didn't see the point of him when he was introduced last season. I'm getting, you know, the vibe I'm getting from him is Spike from Buffy. Like, Season 2 Spike. Evil Spike. That is the vibe I'm getting from him. This guy just loves what he does. And it just makes it all the more fun. And yeah, this was a really good episode. Like I said, there's a couple of things that have happened that aren't bad in and of themselves, but I'm kind of like crossing my fingers that they are either not going to go down a certain road that I don't want them to, or are going to pay off well, because if they don't, then I might retroactively end up having issues. But for the episode in and of itself, love it. Great stuff. So those are my thoughts on the Queen's Justice. Did you see it? I hope so. I spoiled it. What are your thoughts on it? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. I am also one half of the Punch Like a Girl podcast, also available on iTunes and Stitcher. Until next time, this council is adjourned.